We're back another Thursday with Dr. Betsy and Dr. Dan. I'm so excited to be here and be talking to everybody. Hi, Dr. Dan. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well, Dr. Greenleaf. How are you doing today?
Great.
Post holiday, post holiday mini cast, as we'll call it.
Yeah.
So
I
good.
how's your diet going?
5 pounds down.
I am up to when I got on the scale today, I'm down eight pounds. But
Wow, that's really
but I started before the holidays, so I can't say I started New Year's. I started before the holidays, and I hit this plateau, and that was tough because I was like, oh, and then so I actually last couple days I didn't even weigh myself, and I got on the scale today, and it was like a pleasant surprise. I'm like, yes.
yeah. That is a good feeling when you're almost down 10 pounds. I started at 209. I'm 204, and I'm going down to 190. Let's say 190. I'm going down to my fighting weight. And it's important. One thing we could talk about for a few seconds here. It's important to have a coach to keep you accountable. And let me tell you, I do have a coach that's helping me out. I get a diet just about every day, and we discuss and so forth. So it's from a friend of mine, Jenny Lynn, and she is helping me along, which is, exciting because you need to have a coach. You need to have somebody who has experience in helping you out with dietary, measures and nutrition. And that's what we do at Greenleaf Health and Wellness. In part, not all. We offer so many different services.
I know we keep talking about the health and the wellness and the gut health, but you know what people don't realize is how interconnected gut health is to pretty much every condition on the face of the earth. I mean, one of the things that we do at Greenleaf Health and Wellness, which I'm very proud of, is the aesthetics. So we have a lot of treatments for skincare.
Right.
But one of the things I love to point out to patients is you could go to these spas, you can go and have chemical peels and lasers and do Botox and fillers, and you can do everything you want to your skin, and you're just throwing your money away, because if you're not dealing with your health on the inside, you're not going to have great skin, or you're not going to get the results
Right.
you want from these procedures, which
Mhm.
these procedures are great tools, but I would
Mhm.
say, make your money work. And if you're going to get the procedures, let's work on the gut health first. So,
As a matter of fact, it was a topic of conversation the yesterday, literally, and talking about how gut health is so important. And we went from the top of the head down to the toes, and it affects just about every system that you have. And it's important to talk about gut health, which we call leaky gut or intestinal permeability. So, what is leaky gut exactly, Dr. Greenleaf?
yeah, so with leaky gut, you actually have there are cells in the gut that line your
Mhm.
intestines. And so, like this, let's say each one of my hands is a cell. So the idea is that they normally those cells and that lining of the intestines is all kind of butted up against each other, and everything's nice and smooth, and you have this protective wall in the gut. Well, from inflammatory foods, what ends up happening is you get inflammation in the gut,
Mhm.
and it affects the cells, and you get gaps in the cells. And now we call that more intestinal permeability, because now there's gaps, things can enter into the body. And so we get chemicals, we get things from the foods that were entering our body, and then our body just doesn't know what to do with that, and it causes inflammation elsewhere. And a lot of the autoimmune diseases, that one of the if you want to get down to the root causes of the majority of the autoimmune diseases, it's
Absolutely.
usually coming from this leaky gut, this problems with this permeability, where things are getting into your system and causing inflammation. And the body is amazing of how everything is connected. You're like, how does gut health affect my arthritis or my autoimmune, or I see a lot of times with patients with pelvic health with interstitial cystitis, which is an
Right.
inflammatory condition of the bladder. It's,
Right.
and you've said it so many times before, is you can't out medicine, or I've even turned it around from what you said. I'm like, you can't
Well,
out
you
medicine,
can't.
out surgery, a bad diet.
Right. You can't out supplement a bad diet. You can't out medicine a bad diet. You can't out surgery a bad diet. Because if you don't take away that root cause, what's going to happen? It's going to keep on. So when they found out that my triglycerides were like 1,227, I was put on medications, which I needed the medications at that point because I needed to bring it down. But my diet remained the same, so it did decrease it. But when you have levels that high, and that's a level where perhaps you can get like that heart attack, And so what happens from there, you have to look at the root cause, whether it's the standard American diet, and not only diet, but eating foods high in fats, omega-6 fatty acids. Stress can cause a leaky gut. Toxins, heavy metals can cause a leaky gut. Taking different types of drugs, over-the-counter drugs for long periods of time can cause this also. So it becomes a situation where you need to change that lifestyle. You need to have that positive change.
And the other thing that is coming to light, which a lot of people may not know, is really how involved your gut is with your mental well-being. I'm constantly harping on patients that if you don't have the 3 pillars of health, body, mind, and spirit, you're not going to be healthy. Well, if you have a leaky gut and a bad diet, we know that, it's something like 80-90% of your feel-good hormones are made in your gut. Along with 90% of your immune system. So if you have, we know that there's this gut-brain axis. So if your gut's not healthy, you're more likely to suffer from anxiety. You're more likely to suffer from depression. So it's all connected because you're not making those hormones that you should to feel good. Or, for example, you're not you're getting sick all the time, which right now is the time you do not want to be. You want your immune system the best it can be. Well, you need to look at the gut and make sure the gut's functioning before you're try all these. I've seen people like buying all these immune things that are all over the counter, which, that's the other thing. You don't need to be buying over the counter immune products. You need to look at the gut and then get the right products for what's going on with your emotional situation. So. Absolutely.
And some of the consequences, like you said, from leaky gut could be, feeling a little down, a little anxiety, feeling a little blue. You can get insulin resistance that leads to type 2 diabetes. You can get, your cholesterol could be all over the place. You can have poor sleep. You can have different types of skin type of conditions. You can gain weight. So it's very important to take a look at the gut. And you know what? We're going to go over your stool test next week. Look at you. You're like, you're all excited. Do you have a Wheat-Zoomer test in addition to Dr. Green?
I do not. I will see what I can. I
see what else you have so we can put it all together.
But I do have to say that, as doctors, we're not immune to all this stuff. Things happen to us too. And
absolutely.
That's partially, I think, how I got into all this wellness area was because I was trying to heal myself because traditional medicine didn't have the tools that I needed. And I'll tell you, it's got to be, I can't remember how many years ago now. I want to say it may have been about 10 years ago. I found myself in a very stressful job where I wasn't being respected as a physician. And so high stress, eating like crap. And started having hormonal issues because of this, like crazy hormonal fluctuations. And I just thought I blamed it on the fact that I had just had 2 kids, getting sick at every single little thing. Like every time somebody looked at me wrong, I got sick. And, starting to feel really, not necessarily anxiety, like panic, but like starting to have mood issues where I was getting super snippy. And I couldn't explain, normally I'm a happy-go-lucky person. Like, why am I so angry and pissed off all the time? And, I was going to and I totally believe in traditional medicine. I think there's a time and a place for it, but I think you also have to pull in that functional and integrative side. And I kept saying to my doctors, like, hey, there's got to be some kind of commonality between these symptoms and what's happening.
Right.
And it wasn't until I myself go, wait a minute, getting sick all the time, like having mood issues, like what do those two things have in common? And I'm like, oh, my gut and stress. So I was like, okay, let me work on decreasing stress or working on how to handle stress, and let me fix my gut. And it did much better after I did those things. So
you did much better, right? You felt better and you took care of it. And I think that's important for individuals, our listeners, to know. Not only are we the hair club president, but we're clients too. Remember that commercial? And seriously, I mean, all kidding aside, you're leading a busy professional life, family life, and so forth and so on. So, we're susceptible to the same issues and conditions that everybody else is. And we understand, and that's what makes us effective too at Greenlee Health and Wellness, because we are effective because we understand, because we've been there with the expertise, with the experience, as well as our personal, experiences. So that's very important.
Yeah, I'll say it like time and time again, but I love this saying, is that your mess is your message. So
yes.
I know, like in the past when I first came out of training, it was always like, you're the doctor, you got to be very clinical, you got to be separate, you don't share with patients. But you know what? If I've been through something and I've experienced it, that just gives me like a way to kind of, connect with that person better, and same thing, like, maybe then the patients tend to listen to me a little bit more because they're like, oh, you know what? She had this too. And this is, not saying that everything that worked for me is going to work for somebody else, because every single person is different.
Right.
But I find that the people that are really good at what they do, usually, especially in health and wellness and in functional medicine, is usually because they have some sort of personal connection with that condition, whether it was them themselves or a family member. So
right. And you know what? You're 100% correct. We just started last week a new semester at University of Bridgeport, and I have the students, introduce themselves. Now, Dr. Betsy, bar none, every one of them had their own personal experience that led them, and they're changing careers, and they want to get into clinical nutrition and functional medicine because they've had this personal experience. And I said to them, it's going to make you a more effective clinician. Once you're licensed, it'll make you a more effective clinician because you'll have some more sympathy, so you have some empathy, you'll have that clinical way about you because you figured out your own stuff, and now you're going to help somebody else doing that. So I love that idea.
Talking about the leaky gut, I wanted to bring up, I have a new show on wytv7.org, and
I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah, called Body, Mind, Spirit. And so if anyone wants to take a look with that. But what I wanted to bring up was, I was so excited to talk to last night, Kelly Ann Petrucci, Dr. Kelly Ann. It basically brought the idea of bone broth to the forefront. I mean, bone broth is an old school, food that's existed for forever.
Right.
But she really was able to bring the attention to its healing properties. And I love the fact that she refers to it as liquid gold.
Right. So what is bone broth? How is it made? How do you get it? I mean, you hear so much about it today. And I'm glad that Dr. Kellyanne was able to bring that forth yesterday when you did your show, Body, Mind, and Spirit.
It's interesting because when I first did her diet the first time around, I did it years ago, and you could not get bone broth anywhere. You had to make it yourself. And so basically, bone broth is just a soup. It's like a soup broth that's made from bones of different type of animals. So yes, unfortunately, I apologize for the vegetarians out there. There is no vegetarian bone broth. but the idea of why bone broth is so important is it's simmered for hours, and it's extracting the collagen out of the animal products. And so specifically the collagen, and then a lot of the amino acids that you find in the bone broth that have terrific healing properties. One of the things that I didn't realize when she was bringing this up is that this is something she used in her practice for years with her own patients. But when she wrote her initial book, and she has since written tons and tons of books, but when she wrote her initial book, it's a 21-day program. And so I said, well, why 21 days? And she said that that's the amount of time it takes typically for the gut to start to heal and to start seeing turnover of those gut cells. So, and you know what? And specifically, I have to say, I'll put in a plug in for her book. Reading the book, I think, is really important, and I recommend it to a lot of patients, not to just understand, well, like, all right, I'm just going to drink some bone broth. Understand why, like, it's not inflammatory. It helps heal the gut.
Brings down the inflammation, actually.
It can help with weight loss. It can help with bloating. It can help with clearer skin.
Right.
So, she's done a lot of work in this area, and it's really pretty impressive. But going back to the bone broth, when I used to make it, so the idea was, I'm reading her book, and she was like talking about how you would get these bones. Well, I had to find, a lot of times feet are better, like chicken feet, because there's more collagen.
Right.
First time I made it, I had to go on this literal wild goose chase looking
to find some chicken feet.
I ended up in an ethnic supermarket, which I absolutely love now. It's in Asbury Park. And I was able to find them there. And I remember I brought them home, and my family was like looking at me like I was.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Honey, what is going on?
I would put it in the crock pot, and I would leave it for like 24 plus hours.
Really?
Nowadays you can go get bone broth anywhere. It's on the store, the shelves in the supermarket. Kellyanne has her own line. It's, you can actually get powdered versions, because that was the other thing that when I did her diet the first time around, it was tough, because if you were on the go and you're like, you don't want to be walking around carrying bone broth with you, but now there's like powdered versions with with the collagen proteins in them. So
absolutely. And when you were saying that you had to get the chicken feet, I was in the office in North Jersey yesterday, and there is still a store there where if we want to do it again, we can get it, because when I was younger, they would have a certain store and chickens and so forth. So when you said that, it reminded me of that time. So that's interesting that you had said that. But you know what? We carry a line of different bone broths from very reputable nutraceutical companies at Greenleaf Health and Wellness. So when you come in and we find out that you got this leaky gut, that's one of the products that we're going to recommend to help you out.
And I found too that it's actually great to just like sip on. It kind of helps with appetite too. Now, I will admit, I'm not the perfect person when it comes to dieting. You guys will hear me talk about it. I've done like every diet on the face of the earth, and then I got to do them again, because I underlying have a sweet addiction. So I definitely,
and that's okay. That's okay, because a lot of us have, with some new patients in the office yesterday, we always ask, what are your go-to snacks? Because we all have that, and that's okay, but we're going to change that around now.
So, but I forgot what I was going to say about the bone broth, but it really, I found
it helps you with your appetite.
Yeah. Now, I recently told somebody about the bone broth diet, and before getting the book, she like went out and bought bone broth, and then she like texted me the next day. It was like, oh my God, it was terrible. And I was like, oh, you know what? I mean, you can actually add things into it. You can put salt. You can put spices, especially if you add like some turmeric, it would be great, because we know the inflammatory properties of turmeric. So
absolutely, I think that's great.
Yeah. So,
What are some other products that we can use to help out with leaky gut?
right now I'm just focusing so much on the bone broth, but I was thinking, well, I think when we go over my stool testing next week, it's going to depend because I think a large portion of people have low stomach acid. And this
Hmm.
is one of the issues that people go to is like, oh, I'm having stomach upset. I have indigestion. I'm going to go take like an antacid. But what you don't realize is you're actually making
Oh,
your condition worse
worse with the antacid, 100%.
because we know that, first of all, stomach acid has to be at a certain level because to kill bacteria and help that with digestion. But if it's too low, then we tend to get an overgrowth of H. pylori. And some people have heard of
Yes.
Helicobacter pylori as a
Yep.
causative agent of stomach ulcers and
Hmm.
gastric cancers. Now,
Right.
I'm going to warn people when you see your when we do these stool testings that 50% of people have H. pylori.
Hmm.
And a lot of times I think that's from the standard American diet is not, acidified enough. And
Right.
and that's just usually a sign of low stomach acids. So there are natural ways to increase stomach acid, which I started doing was putting like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in my water.
Right.
So, which at
That,
first,
that's
at
that's
first,
great, and
yeah.
that's old school. That's old school, but it's really very helpful.
So, what kind of things do you tend? What are your go tos for helping with leaky gut?
Well, bone broth is definitely one because it'll help also bring down the inflammation and it'll help bring up the good bacteria. So, the probiotics is always something that I recommend for a leaky gut. That could be very, very important. And the other thing, there's a couple of products from couple of different nutraceutical companies that have different types of amino acids that, like proline, that they have, high in proline and other ones, and it helps out. It helps heal that gut, helps bring those tight junctions back in, and that's extremely important. And doing the bone broth along with a product, and this other nutrition shake along with the probiotic, it really works out very, very well. I have leaky gut that has led to thrombocytopenia, and that has been part of my program, Dr. Greenleaf, and it's really worked out extremely well. So I'm very happy about that.
One of the things I'm hoping, keep my fingers crossed of what's going on with this COVID thing, and hoping that in the future we can all be in person a lot more. But what I would love to add at Greenleaf Health and Wellness is fermentation classes, because this is my
Great
passion right
idea.
now. I told you last week that my kitchen right now looks like a science experiment with all the things I have fermenting. I have to
Well,
admit,
do share them. Bring them to the office, and we'll try them out.
so I just made a batch of water kefir,
Oh, nice.
which is different than milk kefir. So my milk kefir was a fail. I had to start it all. I have to get I have to get a new culture. Something just wasn't working out, and it didn't taste right. And I was like, all right, let's just chuck this thing. We'll start all together. Like, oh, it's
Right, right, right.
but I got to get my crock going because I have. So yeah, so talking about fermented foods are wonderful.
Are
Not only
great.
do they tend to be acidic, so they're helping with that stomach acid, and if we can get the stomach acid high, then that also helps usually with the downstream
Hmm.
gut health and the microbiome of the gut. But they also themselves contain these nice, healthy, almost like the worker bees of
Right.
our bodies, these bacteria that we really need to have, to
And
be.
that helps heal your leaky gut. Kimchi is a great fermented food.
Yeah.
Sau- Sauerkraut's a great fermented food. Now, when we say sauerkraut, Dr. Betsy, we don't want you to put it on a dirty water dog and have it with chili, a can of Coke, and some potato chips. I'm guilty of that. And oh boy, I'm thinking of JJ's Hot Dogs in Newark right now. So I may have, no, I'm not going to go drive up there for that, but you have to watch out. You have to watch out because you don't you want to eat the sauerkraut and the kimchi, but you want to leave out the other stuff that may go along with it.
I have a friend, and I remember thinking at the time, like years ago, I used to think she was crazy, but she would drink pickle juice all the time. And when we're talking about the sauerkrauts and the pickles, you want ones that have been naturally fermented, not the ones where they've been pasteurized and they kill off all the bacteria. Usually these ones have a little bit of a cloudiness to the fluid in them. But I had a friend, she swore by drinking pickle juice. And then the funniest thing on the internet this week, there was some like article that came out on the health benefits of pickle juice. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny.
And you know what? Sometimes people were doing that back in the day, and you looked at them and you said, huh? What are you doing? But it was really a good thing to do. So interesting how that comes around, when you look at individuals like that.
And it's funny because I know we like with the fermentation, I made my first sourdough, which I did post on Instagram. I was like, okay, yeah, everyone, I know we're trying to get rid of the carbs and we're trying to cut down on the gluten. But I'm like, if you have to eat gluten or you choose to eat gluten products, you're better off with something that's been sprouted, with sprouted grains, or have fermented grains like a sourdough.
Absolutely. I think that's another great idea. So these are like little tidbits that individuals can use, but what's important is to come into the office so we can do the consult, we can do the exam, and then we can take it to the next level, order some blood work, order a leaky gut blood test, and do a stool analysis, maybe even put in some food sensitivity testing, and then take a look at your lifestyle. You're stressed, what do you need to do? Do you need to work out? Do you need to meditate? Whatever it is, we have a whole array of services that we can use and that are at our fingertips that can help out individuals.
And I love, you can also watch us every Thursday around this time, because we try to get on here and give you our 2 cents. So
more than 2 cents. It's $1.95 so far today.
Oh, yeah.
And what were we saying? I think we're going to try to, we're going to jump over to Clubhouse after this.
Yeah. So if people have not heard of it, and if you're an Apple owner, unfortunately, I'm an Android owner and I have had to use my iPad for work for this, but there is a new social media platform called Clubhouse. And we are actually in a couple minutes. We're going to jump over to Clubhouse and continue
for the first time
ever. So we're going to jump over there and continue our conversation. So if you are on Clubhouse, then find us, like us, follow us. Also, just on here, make sure you like and follow us. Dr. Dan, I'm sure you're on other social medias like Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff.
Yes, it's important. Follow us, Greenleaf Health and Wellness. Follow us because if we run specials, if we're educating you, at least you can see what's going on and how we can help you, because we'd like to motivate, educate, and inspire. Come on to the office and we'll be more than happy to sit down and spend a little time talking to you to see if we can help you, right?
Yeah, and keep an eye out, because we'll be putting some announcements on classes and webinars coming up pretty soon on
I think next Wednesday we're having a webinar, our first of the year. I think
it's actually next Friday, but
I have to check now.
Pay attention, because we will post it on here, and you do have to sign up. You do have to sign up to get into that one. So
we're doing a lunch and learn at noon next Friday, the 22nd. So a free lunch and learn. We're going to talk about immunity. Okay. We're all still in the middle of this pandemic, and we need to have a strong immune system to help ourselves out. So next Friday, which is the 22nd at noon, lunch and learn. So bring your kimchi, bring your sauerkraut, bring your bone broth, and we will discuss immunity.
Yeah, definitely. And then we're also going to be putting up an evening version. So if you can't make the lunchtime one, we'll put an evening one up.
I think we're going to do that the following week. I don't think we have it set, but we'll let you know as soon as we as soon as we get that date scheduled in.
And the other exciting news, which I haven't even told you yet, but our Emcella machine, which does the Kegel exercises, can help
Yes.
with incontinence, can help with strengthening of the pelvic floor, can aid with, for men, it can help with stamina and a lot of different things. So it can help with sexual function for both men and women.
Right.
So we are going to be offering a introductory rate for that. So look out for that advertisement because that's going to be coming soon. So it's going to be like close to like more than half off of what it normally is.
Wow.
As an
You really need to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Because usually when we run a special, it's for a period of time, set period of time. So come on in and at least have a discussion with us, and we'll be able to get you better when it comes to that.
That one's a quick fix, and I want to get people ready for Valentine's Day. I'm looking ahead.
So you're getting ready for Valentine's Day with some of the equipment that we have in the office. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
that is a great idea. We can probably run simultaneously weight loss, so you feel better and you look better and you're able to perform better. It's all good.
It's a win-win.
It's a win. It's a win-win-win situation.
All right, so join us. We're jumping to Clubhouse, and we're going to continue some.
Come on over to Clubhouse.
All right. See you later.
We'll see you guys later.